Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of your six-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, July 2nd. July 4th weekend just approaching. The LA Galaxy getting ready to take on the Vancouver Whitecaps, one of the best teams in Major League Soccer, coming up on Friday night. Means a long weekend for everybody. We hope everybody's going to be safe and sane as we approach the long weekend. We're going to talk a little bit about Greg Vanny and what he had to say today at training. I was at training today, so I can give you a little bit of updates on some different things as we move along. But the focus for today is the LA Galaxy getting ready for the Vancouver Whitecaps. And in order to help me do all that, we're glad to have him back, looking stylish with the Magnum PI mustache, Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how's it going, bud?
It's going well. Like I mentioned, this is my time during, I have the summer and the winter where I just get fed up with the beard and shave it off. So got a little creative with it. It was not a popular decision in this house, but I figured for 4th of July, like you said, a Magnum PI type of vibe for the summer. So we'll see how it goes. Probably won't last long. The stubble's going to come in real quick and we'll figure it out. But, you know, it kind of tells you where I am this summer with my priorities and what I got going on. So
did I say the wrong day of the week? Because I do feel like it is a Thursday, but it's not. It's a Wednesday.
You're right. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day, everybody. The Hump Day show.
It's not often we get to humping on a Wednesday. So here we go. Ready to rock and roll for you. I mean, Eric, it's it was a question I posed today to Greg Vanny whenever I was there, which was sort of like, hey, you guys are on the verge of basically being eliminated from everything. There's a scant few things to sort of continue playing for today. I mean, do you feel, and this is a question for you and not Greg Vanny, because Greg Vanny already answered the question, and I can tell you what he said later. But do you feel like this is the precipice for the LA Galaxy, right on the cliff? We're sort of waiting there. Somebody's going to jump off eventually. When you jump off, that's the mental checkout. This season's over. This season's not going anywhere. Despite the fact they're all professionals, and we'll of course say that they are professionals. Is there still something besides pride, or is it all pride? Is it all professional pride? How do you sort of look at the next couple of games, 3 home games in a row, which end up being super important, but also not very important because of where the LA Galaxy are right now?
It's funny because I mentioned 10 games into the season on where they were at, that the season was over. Just given mathematically, technically, it was possible. The old adage all the time is you can't win the league at the beginning of the season, but you can certainly lose it. And I think they lost it. So I think mathematically or not, given how they're, still in, single digit points in the standings, 20 games in, I think the season is over. For all intents and purposes here.
Right.
So what do they have left to play for? You're right. Other than pride, I think it's just a matter of playing spoiler and to build your confidence. No one, when you're in a depression or you're in a downward, valley and you want to work yourself back up to the peak, you need some little moments to kind of give yourself that hope. And I think this 3-game home stretch is an opportunity, not for them to salvage the playoffs or to make a run at anything, but just to kind of get their mojo back, to get them feeling like professional athletes, to make them look like they're capable people, like they're not failures at their job, essentially, is basically how they don't want to feel. So call that playing for pride if you want, but we're also going to get to a point where and we've been on the opposite side of this, where other teams get to play spoiler, where we've gone in and we said, hey, Houston doesn't have anything to play for in this last game of the season, but they're still going to give you a run for it and ruin your, another team's season. So you have that to kind of look forward to as well, where even though the Galaxy season is done, you can still play spoiler to someone else. And that, it could be a playing for pride thing. It could be hey, we've been on the other side of this and now we get to kind of spoil the party for someone else. And you build that momentum going into 2026. The one thing that I'll contradict myself, one of my favorite moves that I like to do is you still have Leagues Cup to play for, right, and people can grit their teeth as much as they can. That's a competition with real stakes. In terms of the CONCACAF Champions Cup and, what's something that they can get out of it. I know prize money is a factor in previous years that as fans, we can say that this is a cash grab, meaningless tournament, but the players, it means something to them because they get those extra bonuses and those extra paychecks, which, with the salaries just came out, which could mean a lot to them. You've seen the impact in the Club World Cup right now. The prize money is obviously at a much higher level and it's much higher stakes, but these teams are throwing it all out there because there's 10, 20, $30 million on the line. Obviously, it's going to be a much smaller scale, but all relative to what their salary is. This is going to be something that they have that to play for. So I think Leagues Cup is something that you definitely circle, and then you take this 3-game home stretch as an opportunity to start to get your rhythm as you flow into those, that tournament. And then, of course, Campeones Cup, we've talked about it. That's a one-off game. You just need to get hot for one night. We've seen the Galaxy be in games with teams of higher caliber, so they've shown the ability to be in there. So all they need to do is just kind of stay healthy, stay relatively competent. And I think you do have things to play for, even though I think from an MLS playoff, MLS Cup perspective, the season's done. But you still have things that you can look forward to and play for.
So I agree with that. I think you got to find your little pieces and little things. My big concern here is that you continue on the path that you're going to, and things are going to mentally shut down. And there's nothing much you can do about that once it starts happening. Greg Vanny's answer was one of which, obviously I considered, but I think, he has more insight into it than certainly I was, being a former player and then also being the coach, is looking at, he mentioned there are people with young careers here, right? He said basically, we have kids on the team who have young careers, who are trying to make a name for themselves, who are trying to improve, who are maybe fighting for contracts, that type of thing. He goes, we have older guys who want to be competitive as much as they possibly can with the remaining games that they have left, and he goes, and I thought to guys like, Maya Yoshida, or you talk to guys who are a little bit older, like even like Marco Royce. Marco Royce wants to be competitive. Marco Royce has been a competitor his entire life. He does not like where this team is, and you can see the frustration with him sometimes. So, I think those can be motivating factors, and I think those are good motivating factors, and it's something outside of just wins and losses, which is, I want to do this for me because I want to be competitive in this. I want to do this for me because I'm trying to earn a contract. Now, that also hurts you sometimes because you have guys who are out there playing as individuals and not as a team. And I did get a comment from somebody on one of YouTube's. There were a couple of really good ones. One of them was that, you can't say this LA Galaxy is a good team anymore and they're just playing badly. He goes, it has good players on it. He goes, but as a team, they're not playing well, right? And I that's a great...
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah.
Great parse. I agree 100%. You're there. Okay.
You tip the cap.
Yeah. 100%. The other one said that this felt like retribution for the Galaxy, like cheating on their girl or something like that, right? Like this whole season was that. He goes, this is what the Galaxy cheat on their girl or something? Because like this feels like that kind of karma coming back to get you, right? And I was sort of like, okay, I get that too. That's good. So, I think we can look at those and try to parse all this stuff. I did get a chance to go to training today, so I did get to go out and say hi to everybody, which is
Look
always.
At you.
Yeah, I know it was a stroke of fate. I'm actually doing a project for real work in the city of Carson right now, and so I was down the street and I was like, hey, training's going to be around this time. I'm going to hop on down. I texted over Kevin Acevedo, hey bud, I think I'm going to be there today. So got to show up and say hi to everybody. And it was nice to see everybody. It's also nice to just touch bases with everybody and sort of you get the feel for it as you're there. This is, and I don't get to watch. I want to be clear about, everybody thinks going to training is awesome. I don't actually get to watch training. I get to stand next to the fence and I get to hear training going on behind the fence. It's a lot of fun. Good times. The whole deal. Intensity was up. the guys were yelling and screaming at each other, like sort of like in a competitive way, and so you're like, okay, that's good. I know they worked on some set pieces and some stuff like that because I could hear how the setup was going and that type of thing, but I can't tell you what actually I saw because I didn't see much in there. So I didn't see anybody, you don't see anybody checked out, and it's a short little window into things, so you're sort of like, okay, does that make some sense? But this is a team that still feels like there's pride. Guys are very friendly, came by and said hi. I know some of the players pretty well, so it was nice to check in with them and just sort of see where they're at and their headspace is at. Like, just sort of, we're just talking here. We're just having a conversation, like, that type of thing.
You would say, based on what you saw, that the vibes are not
down. The vibes aren't down.
They're not out.
No.
Which, and I know there are people who don't like to hear that. They say, hey, you haven't won. You've won one game all season. Why are you not just beating yourself up? And that's not a recipe for success either. So you do want them to have, some of that jovial spirit and to still kind of have their heads up. So it is good to hear, because you're right that what you're playing for is to not get into that spiral.
Right.
And so if you keep losing games, the wins get further and further apart, even though they're pretty far apart right now. Then you start to lose some of that. So I think that's the importance of, someone like you and I know Damien and Rob and everyone that kind of goes out to trainings, they get to kind of see that side that maybe it's important for people to recognize these are people that they're showing up to work every day. You don't want to go in with the storm cloud over you every single day. That's a miserable way to be, even though it might feel like that when you watch this team sometimes.
I was joking around with Damien because after we got done there, you're sort of talking to everybody. I'm like, man, I go, this is a good team. Like, just all the guys there. I'm like, it almost seems like everybody should get a chance to do what we get to do, which is, go out there and watch and sort of see how they're doing and that type of thing. I go, it's sort of like the pilot on the airplane that as you're walking off the airplane, he's standing up front. He's like, hope you had fun. Hope you have it. That's Greg Vanny needs to do it. Everybody has to leave through one exit, and Greg Vanny has to shake everybody's hand on the way out. Like, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it today. The whole deal. Have a good one.
We know you have many MLS teams to support, and we appreciate you for choosing the LA Galaxy.
No. So, I mean, there's, the other part of this is these guys play a game for a living, and there's some absolute joy and giddiness that comes just from that. I mean,
living the dream.
Yeah. Absolutely 100%. So you got to see it. Some things that I saw today that maybe I didn't expect to see. Uri Rosell was there. Apparently stops by and says hi on occasion. And so he was there. By the way, walked right by me and I was like, who was that? Like, didn't even recognize him. Like if you don't have a jersey on anymore.
The aura, though.
Yeah, of course. If you don't have a jersey on anymore, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. He played for the Galaxy. I remember that. You have to.
He makes his appearances in a Riqui Puig Instagram every now and again. So, yeah, you see him around campus.
Yep, absolutely. So he was there. One of the things that we saw today, Gino Vivi is actually back with the LA Galaxy right now. Now, Gino was off with Saprissa, right? And that was his hometown sort of team growing up. That was where he did his academy
Costa Rican
stuff.
born,
Yep, whole deal. So he was down with Saprissa there. It was funny because we were sort of joking with him a little bit, like, how was it down in, how was it with Saprissa? And he goes, man, you could be playing on a field like this, and he points to, where the Galaxy are training. He goes, or like you go to one and there's no grass on it. And he goes, he goes, like the levels of what you play. He goes, the league is so tough, like, cause it's just so unpredictable with that. And you just never know. And there's really good players out there who can play. He goes, but it's just a grind. And so, he was back. His path with the LA Galaxy, now that he's back, is more difficult one, just because he is an international player as of right now. And so finding a space for him, because you would have to go out and buy an international slot and do all sorts of stuff, would be more difficult. I think they are trying to work on a green card with him, but I don't know if you guys know anything about immigration processing right now. It is not going quickly. And so in order for anything to happen,
that's tough. That
sort of has to get back and get cleared up. I think they're trying to work that out with him and see how that goes. I wouldn't rule out the fact that one, he could play down with Ventura County, for a little while. But I mean, I don't know that's where you want to stick him. Maybe he goes on loan again. That's something. But I think they might wait a little bit and see how this plays out. The green card issue plays out. And as he is right now, he sort of gets to play with the first team, possibly get some games with the second team and do that stuff. So Gino Vivi being back. The other,
before you move on to the next thing, I'll just say that's an exciting thing to hear. He was someone who had a lot of promise. And speaking of Leagues Cup, kind of those types of games were the types of games where he'd show up and he'd go, hey, there's something about this kid, that maybe he have something to look forward to. And given the season that the Galaxy have had so far, it seems like, oh, well, this would be a good opportunity to give him a platform to play and to kind of have, like you said, young players who are young in their career playing with something to prove, whether it's to earn a spot on the Galaxy or to show yourself attractive to a team in another league, a team, within the league as well, get those eyeballs on you. So I hope all goes well. We know right now with the process, who knows what one day one country's good,
right,
another day the country's not good. And then that changes. And so there's a whole bunch of sideways things. And I know people want to say to stick to sports things, but this is a player this is impacting how the Galaxy are able to put this player on the roster. So it absolutely has to do with it. And I'm sure we'll hear about other things that are related to the Galaxy in the stadium as well. It's all relevant. It's all this world. It's a tangled web that we weave. So excited to hear that he's back, and just hope for, whatever processes he has to go through, he can get there. Because he's someone who I liked when he got his minutes and he got his chances. Right. I liked what I saw, and I thought that there could be, something there for him to, become MLS, journeyman style player. If you think about someone like a Marcelo Sarvis coming from the Costa Rican league and kind of, building up your toughness and getting your scars in the Costa Rican league, I think that's a great place to go and kind of figure things out because of the difficulty in the level. So hopefully he's able to figure it out.
Yeah, we'll keep watching that and see how that goes. Let's see. Let's go with Johnny Perez, because that was a question. I actually get asked about Johnny Perez a lot. I have there's no real update, but I can sort of tell you what's going into everything that's being decided. Playing for Nashville right now on loan with them. It does seem like there's an option to extend that loan through the rest of the year. I would imagine, because he's getting playing time right now, that will happen. That seems likely in this scenario right now. Now, there also is a full purchase option, and I don't think that they have to trigger that now or do anything if they want to keep him for the rest of the year. So I think they were waiting for Tyler Boyd to sort of come back. And by the way, if you're ever like, hey, Tyler Boyd, yeah, that's right. Tyler Boyd coming back whenever he did his ACL. And so I think they're waiting for him to come back, but I haven't heard a status update on him. Not that I've been following Nashville a whole bunch.
But it's a major injury, see Riqui Puig if you're thinking about timetables and where that goes. But it is interesting, Tyler Boyd going to Nashville and then Johnny Perez being the backfill. And it's just funny, the Galaxy connections in Nashville and all the back and forth through that. So many,
Gaston Brugman, Nashville, Nick DePuy, which I was talking about today, Nashville. So there's all sorts of like the Nashville, somebody may have made the comment that, Nashville doesn't want to do any more business with us. No more. They don't want to trade anymore. The whole deal. So that's sort of that. So Johnny Perez, I think that it's likely he's going to stay with Nashville for the rest of the year. That's what it seems like right now, but that could change, right? And so that could certainly change. Greg Vanny was asked today about transfer window. Alex Ruiz asked a question about the transfer window coming up and if they were going to move anything. Greg gave a perfectly fine answer in the whole deal. Yeah, we're always trying to improve in the window and the whole deal. I've been told more, and what Greg said, I think, is also along those lines, is that if for anything to happen because of the way the Galaxy are constructed right now, somebody's going to have to move out in order for somebody to move in. And so this isn't going to be like, oh, you're shopping overseas and you're doing all this stuff. Somebody's going to have to go out in order for somebody to move back in. And so now we have to sort of stop and wait for that. And that complicates things more whenever there has to be an out and an in. So even if you do even if Will Kuntz goes out there and finds somebody, and it's an international player or something, we're going to have to move an international player out. You got to bring, because they need the cap space, right?
Yeah. It's a contingency house buying situation where, you can't buy it until you sell the other property.
Right. Right.
If anyone is trying to sell a house right now, you could definitely probably feel how difficult that might be. So very similar idea. And then who do you offload? Well, what's the number that fits into the right person? Is it a combination of players? And then you have to find someone else who's interested. So are you already having these conversations? If you're Will Kuntz, hey, if we get someone down the line, is this someone who you'd be interested in? So you're having these conversations now. That way, when the transfer window does open, you've already had these conversations, and it's just a matter of, hey, remember when we had a conversation about so-and-so? You still interested? And then it can move on from there. So a lot of wheels within wheels and keeping tabs on a lot of different players, I'm sure.
Which makes it way more difficult, right? So, again, I think the same caveats that we've been saying on this still sort of stand out. If they are going to get somebody, it's going to be somebody who fits not just for this year, but probably for next year. And it's even more so a focus on next year, right? So it's like this isn't just a Band-Aid and by the way, because the Galaxy have to trade something out in order to bring something in. I don't think there's just going to be a quote unquote Band-Aid for this year, right? Like, oh well, it's just only going to be for this year, but there's no room to rent somebody, and because you're going to have to get rid of somebody too, and who do you want to get rid of, right?
And for what purpose? Last year it was, Marco Royce, we're going all in, we're putting all our eggs in this basket, and it somewhat hampered them for this year. But you end up with your MLS Cup, the trophy stays in the cabinet, as I always like to say. So that's something where you look and you say, okay, it was worth it. This year, you're right. There's not someone who's going to come in, with 14 games left in the season and is going to turn everything around and make them a playoff contender. And especially when you think about, the amount of money that they have, this is a team that doesn't have any GAM, if I remember correctly. It's at 0. And so you're not going to go and break the bank. There's not a DP spot available. So that's not going to be that caliber of player. So it really narrows the vision, the window in terms of, what type of player you can bring in. And then we were just talking about it with Gino Vivi and everything going on, with immigration right now. It's most likely if you want to make some move, maybe you want to go after a domestic player just so you don't have to worry about those headaches and visas and all those different things as well. So now that makes your pool even smaller. And it just, maybe if something doesn't happen, I wouldn't be shocked either, just because of the inflexibility of where they're at. I'm sure they're going to try to make moves and improve themselves for next year, because I'm sure eyes are already on 2026 and you want to set yourself up for success. And if you can set yourself up now, that's great. So I'm not saying that they're not trying, but it's going to be really difficult. And I just, maybe people need to brace themselves that nothing happens in the window. And when you see other teams signing players and other teams improving themselves and say, hey, why aren't the Galaxy doing it?
It's going to be rough.
It might be done. Yeah.
That's the part that, no team, and it doesn't matter if you're a championship team or if you're the last place team in all of the league, no team wants to just sit there and not do anything whenever there's a transfer window. And I think Vanny feels that. I think that the front office feels that. I think they're all sort of in that same boat. Hold on, I think there might be have been a score.
Is there breaking news? I'll shout out Darren K in the chat. He said you can't put a Band-Aid on a severed limb. So right now we're beyond fixing the level of bleeding that's happening here.
Darren, that was outstanding, Darren. Thank you for that. Mexico's winning 2-0, by the way. I was watching.
No, we blinked.
Yeah, we blinked and it finally turned over. There it goes. No, I've been watching Gold Cup games today. So U.S. advancing, by the way, which is good news for the LA Galaxy, because some of the guys who are on the U.S. men's national team will not go back to Vancouver for the Vancouver game. So that's one of the reasons I was paying attention to it, to sort of see how that would go. But no, I don't think that there's a quick fix, and I don't think any of that stuff is sort of possible. And I wouldn't be surprised if they, by the way, it's going to annoy so many people. I imagine that Will Kuntz is going to have one move up his sleeve. Like one thing is going to sort of move around. You're going to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Is the goalkeeper finally, are we going to finally see
that's
a goalkeeper
where I'm
move?
At. That's where I'm at. You're going to move a goalkeeper, right?
Saying, yeah.
Or you bring another one in. You move one goalkeeper, you bring 2 more in.
There were rumors on that. Do you have info on that? Is this the time to bring that up?
Which one?
Rumor?
I saw.
There was a rumor.
There was the stupidest rumor I've ever seen in my entire life.
All right, fair enough.
There was. Who was it? Was it? I can't remember who it was, but I'm like, the Galaxy don't need another
this
goalkeeper.
Is bad show prep, but
yes, the Galaxy do not need somebody in the chat room. Go find that transfer for that. I saw it was stupid. I was like, this is. I don't even want to ask anybody about this. It was one of those. Sometimes I sit there, Eric, and I'm like embarrassed to ask about like some of these transfer rumors. I'm like, this is so bad. Listen, this is me typing out like a text message. Hey, I know this is really bad rumor. Like it's not going to happen, but I just check in to make sure I'm not crazy. Like something falls through the crack or something like that, So, yeah, I haven't checked on that one yet. It's been a busy day anyway. One of the rumors that is up there and what could help the LA Galaxy a little bit is Aaron Bibu, who is currently claiming Vasteras from the LA Galaxy a little more than 3 months ago, has already impressed in Europe, according to Tom Bogert, the mustache man himself, another mustache man. Sorry, the other one.
One, yeah, he's had it much longer than
he has. It's part of his whole thing. But apparently, Genk in talks to sign Aaron Bibu. The Galaxy apparently have a sell-on clause for this. I wouldn't expect it's going to be a whole bunch of money, maybe up to $100,000, but any amount of money at this point is better than zero amount of money. And so I think the Galaxy would be happy with that. The Galaxy had a 25% sell-on clause. So we'll see if that ends up being, what the number is on that and how that sort of goes.
I got the fake, or not
yes.
fake transfer, but the transfer. It's Etienne Vassin. He was playing with Suriname in the Gold Cup, and then he's from Groningen. And I could see where that connection is made because of the AEG connections. Maybe there's a connection there, but it said they would have to pay around a $2 million fee if they wanted to release him. So just given we're talking about inflexibility and things like that. So it doesn't seem, I agree with you why that maybe
I read that and I was like,
killed
what?
Or not worth digging into it. Yeah.
No.
For our fifth goalkeeper.
No. Yeah. Need another one. That's what you need. 5 goalkeepers, 6 goalkeepers. How many goalkeepers? Maybe the Galaxy get a shutout if they started all their goalkeepers at the same time. I think
the move.
That's the move.
We've been thinking about this all wrong.
You
can't score if all 11 players are in goal.
Kuntz is out here playing 3D chess. We're just playing checkers. That's what it is. So that's I think those were sort of the big takeaways from training. Mauricio Cuevas talked to us for a little bit. I basically, he's a guy who's just a team player guy. So I don't know that you're going to get like super in-depth answers from him, but I'm sort of like, very much a one game at a time. I mean, Greg tried to preach the one game at a time too. I'm like, yeah. No, I'm not. I was trying to blow.
Are we going to play this game?
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not playing this game. There's
we're talking
3 home games.
Here.
Yeah. We're just guys talking. There are 3 home games coming up in which you guys could make a significant step by winning all 3. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, look.
Double your point total.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, Greg even talked about how he looked at all the games since the New York game. And he sort of said, I go and look through that. He goes, and I feel like we dropped so many, we should have gotten 15 points out of those games. He goes, and we didn't. And he looks at it and he goes, we were in winning positions in some of those games. We were in the lead in some of those games. We let late goals in that cost us points, like the whole deal. And so, he sort of gets that progression is there. I said it that the Galaxy are now 4 games in the hole in terms of playing away, and that's going to, even with as bad as their record is, that's going to skew their record to make it look even worse because you don't get a lot of points on the road. Look at the San Jose game, which, by the way, I think everybody on the Galaxy, everybody I talked to about the game said, we should have won that game. And everybody sort of feels that way too.
Capable of winning that game for sure.
Yeah,
it goes back, and it's funny listening to Kevin on the show on Monday. This is the theme of the 2025 LA Galaxy. Is every episode is, hey, they could have won that game. They look like they had opportunities, and then of course it doesn't. We end up talking about a loss or a draw at the end. So again, par for the course for the 2025 LA Galaxy.
Away at RSL was a bad game. Away at New York was a bad game. And away at Colorado was a bad game. I think those are the 3 games where you really said the Galaxy didn't compete. And which is crazy to say because, again, and I get it. I'm just not into this. And I think Kevin's sort of over it. He's like, they're just a bad team. And I agree. They're not a good team, right? I mean, we're watching it now, the whole deal. But I don't want to sit here and just say, oh, well, they're just bad and there's nothing that's happening on there. And that, I can't be honest with what I'm seeing. I'm going to tell you what I see.
Yeah.
If we can all agree, it's crazy. They only have 9 points in 20 games. It's pretty crazy that Greg Vanny probably still has a job at this point. I'll agree with that too. I understand why they were doing it. And again, I had no insight into it whenever they did it, but I was sort of thinking the same thing, but they did it different ways. Still crazy, right? The whole deal. I don't know if he loses the first game next season. He's gone, right? Like it's one of those. It's gonna be quick, whenever it happens. But to me, looking at them this year, I can reasonably put in there and say this is what I see is wrong, and this is the deal.
As
Go ahead.
people who cover the team, you watch the games, and so you can look at the standings and the statistics and XG, and you can say this team is bad. But when you watch every single game, it's like you said, on one hand, you can count the games that were truly, truly abominations and bad. Now, in the games that were somewhat close, San Jose game being a perfect example, that game was winnable, but there were some moments in there that were really bad and really frustrating. And watching Joseph Paintsil, get in his own head and send it into row X, that's getting real old. But that doesn't mean, and I think Vanny mentioned this in the post conference as well, but he was in the position to send it into row X. So he had to do something right to be there. And then to your point, it all feels very Kevin Cabral. Where, Kevin Cabral's getting quick enough and in behind the defenses to have the chances, but he's kicking it right at the goalie, or he's tripping over his own shoelaces. But you have to give someone credit because they're kind of getting halfway there. You're right. It's not going to make anybody who's a fan of this team happy.
No,
it's not fun. It's not a fun thing to do, but we watch the games. And
yes.
When you see the games, you can't sit there and say this team is just a disaster from minute 1 to minute 90. It's just not. There's moments that are frustrating, but it's not a disaster from top to bottom.
Yeah, the worst team I've ever seen. Like, it just absolutely, and they're the worst. I mean, as pessimistic Pottermus, which, by the way, great name. I like the change and everything like that. Definitely going to be wooden spoon winners. Montreal have way more points, right? I mean, it's one of those where you sit there and you're like, yeah. I mean, again, I think the only trophy to the LA Galaxy reasonably walk away with this year is the wooden spoon. So, which is, I'm not saying that. By the way, I still think, and people will love to argue this, I still think there's a ton of pressure on the LA Galaxy not to finish bottom of the league, and I think that pressure is going to manifest itself in competition. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about what is there to play for besides pride. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Not finishing as the 30th place LA Galaxy.
By the way, Gus had a super chat in here that I wanted to get to as well, because there are questions about Riqui Puig, and we're starting to see more LA posts from Mr. Riqui, and
was he at training?
I did not see
you catch a little maestro there?
Did not see him. I would have noticed him. I would have seen him. I would have noticed him. He was somebody that I definitely would have mentioned if I had seen him. But Gus asked, "What's the move with Puig then?" If we were talking at the beginning, is this year over? Right? And are we worried about the men? Then what do you do with Riqui Puig? Do you play him or do you rest him? And I think, Greg Vanny answered this question, so we kind of already know the answer. But mine is going to stay consistent, which is as soon as he's ready to come back, you put him on the field and you get him to start playing and you see what the LA Galaxy can do. Because if they rattle off 5 or 6 games at the end of the season with Riqui Puig playing and they're winning and they're feeling good, then 2026 is on. Here you go. You got confidence. You got a team that in the offseason is going to work extremely hard because they know how bad they were this year, but they have the confidence knowing that Riqui Puig is going to be back. He's good enough to help them win and that they're going to be able to do that. Now, you don't play him, and then you just expect him to go out there and figure that all out in 2026 whenever you do. That sounds like danger game to me.
And the muscles atrophy, and we see that with getting out there and doing the rehab. There's something about the muscle memory and getting back out there and getting the game minutes, playing at game speed,
getting kicked, getting slide tackled,
getting kicked, getting fouled.
Yep.
Getting hacked in an ankle and figuring out that everything's going to be okay. I think that's all part of it. So I'm with you. The only thing why I'm kind of smirking and giggling a little bit is we felt this way about the 2023 LA Galaxy, and I know we're kind of rehashing old wounds here, but at the end of 2022, you saw them make a run last 10 games of the season, Riqui Puig joining them halfway through the year. They're making this run, and you think, okay, 2023, it was going to be a leap up, and then things went backwards. So that's always the thing where you have to be careful. Hypothetically, it is possible you end the 2025 season strong on a 5-game win streak. You spoiled someone on decision day from, getting a home playoff game or from making the playoffs.
Yeah, kick them out of the playoffs.
Making it all go sideways. And then you have that over your head to say, okay, now we're going to go into next year with a lot of the same pieces. Now, the question is going to be, who are those pieces going to be? Because we know that maybe the pieces that came in this year were not it. So do you still need a reload to make things happen? To which I'll go back. The 2024 LA Galaxy, with a lot of change, was able to win MLS Cup. So bringing in new change doesn't mean that you can't have success. So it's a little bit of a crapshoot, but at the same time, we're broken records here.
Yeah.
You do play Riqui Puig. You need the minutes, and there's going to be games in Leagues Cup, in Campeones Cup, where if he's healthy, you want him there because there are real stakes there. And I know a lot of, talking about stakes is making people hungry, depending on how you spell that. But, that's fun times.
By the way, Mexico's second goal was canceled, so it's still 1-0. So VAR overturned it. So that's an interesting game there.
Honduras still in the game.
Watching Julian Araujo playing for Mexico, by the way.
Is he starting? Is he playing?
Yeah, he was starting. Oh, he was
great.
playing.
Good for him.
He's the first, I think they were saying he was the first right back to play consecutive games with Mexico in the Gold Cup. So like that, maybe he's putting his stamp down on that. So that was
going to say, I can't root for Mexico, but gosh darn it if I have to root for Julian Araujo.
I'm a big Julian Araujo fan. Gary, $2 super that favorite old school candy. Does Twix count as old school candy? Like that was my original. I may have just the family size Twix that are like this big and they're like good for sharing. Yeah, I usually buy one of those and then don't share. Okay. Just straight up.
I don't know if that counts as an old school candy, but it's a classic.
What about
I guess
a peanut butter cup? Can we go Reese's and just is that old school candy?
I think those are still so household. I don't know if they count as old school just so because they're kind of timeless. I'll tell you where my brain is going. To me, I love a butterscotch.
I was going to say
a
Werther's
gold wrapped.
A Werther's.
Yeah, Werther's original. But Werther's is different from butterscotch. But like the yellow golden wrapper of a butterscotch, my grandma had the strawberry candies,
right,
and then the butterscotch,
right.
And I still, if we find one of those, there's one of our old towns over here has the candy shop with the old style candy. I'm going to walk out of there with a bag of butterscotch if there's something about me when I walk into those places. So to me, that feels old school,
right?
Feels like, an old grandma move, but it does make you, takes me to my childhood when you see little butterscotch. I go to my grandma's little dish with little candies and steal a little butterscotch. So that's where I go with it, with an old school candy.
Did they ever have like the wedding mints that were like green and pink and like?
Yes.
Yes. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just wanted to check. By the way, pessimistic Pottermus says the pieces the LA Galaxy have are like a bad made jigsaw puzzle. Where you're like trying to get the pieces to fit and it fits.
Is this a joke?
Doesn't
Is this a prank?
I would also like to say that I'm in the middle of rewatching NCIS. Which got, by the way, classic. Just a straight up Leroy Jethro Gibbs. Almost considered giving my son middle name Leroy just because of that show. All right, we're a big fan of Leroy Jethro Gibbs in this.
Shout out Jeff Wilson, Guys of Shorts. You're familiar with the Guys of Shorts. Played a corpse on NCIS.
Did he?
We all got gathered around. We're all excited. No speaking lines, just laid out on the medical table. There's a picture of him in the background. So that was one of our favorite moments watching NCIS.
What?
One of our buddies got to be a corpse on NCIS.
I want to know episode because I am rewatching Jeff. I am.
He'll get you the episode.
Yeah, have him text me that. That's for sure. Yeah. But one of the things I was rewatching NCIS and they had one case where they had a body that was like cut up, and so they called it a meat jigsaw puzzle. Right? Let me put this meat puzzle back together, and that's the LA Galaxy. They have a meat puzzle right now.
Yeah.
All right. You're trying to figure out what pieces are going there. Jonathan Prince, by the way, says which position is our most needed to help the team, and not necessarily Riqui Puig. You can't say Ricky. That's what he said. You're not allowed to. So like, what position of need is there? I guess a center back. Do you want like a?
It's just you and I telling on ourselves. And to me, it's striker. You need a number 9, a reliable number 9 who can put the ball in the back of the net.
Like,
you don't have to think about it.
I think Nasi is that guy.
Not that guy.
I think he's going to be that guy. I think you got to give him a chance.
You can't depend on him right now.
Maybe
he will be, but that's what this team is missing that right now.
Billy Sharp. You go out and get Billy Sharp again. Is he 70 now?
He's just a guy who knows how to put it in the back of the net.
That's all he is.
Form is temporary, class is permanent.
Aaron, by the way, $5 super chat. Who would you mortgage the team for now, and who would you give up for them? So who would you bring in? You could mortgage the whole team. You could do the whole thing. It was funny. Damian Calhoun and I and one of the security guards there, who's Max. Max is outstanding. We were talking about like bringing in. By the way, there's 2 security guards named Max, so I think you can only be like head security guy for the Galaxy if your name is Max. I just always found
it's a prerequisite.
Yeah, prerequisite. But we were talking today about it, and we were talking about Steven Gerrard a little bit. I'm like, I still argue to this day that at that moment somebody comes in and offers you Steven Gerrard, and I would make that call every time. I'd be like, yeah, I want Steven Gerrard. Of course I do. I want to. I know there's people who disagree. But I didn't. I was like, at the time, I was like, that seems like a good move. I like that. That's what the move you want to make.
And going back to, we watched those games.
Yes.
Steven Gerrard was not bad. He scored in his debut.
He did.
He had some great passes. Yeah, longer in the tooth. But was not
injured a lot.
Liverpool, Steven Gerrard, he was not that. But he had moments, and he was able to, to hang with the Galaxy for a bit. And he was able to. Again, not a terrible move. When you're leveraging things for him, that's where it becomes a different conversation.
Whenever you go into the DP, well, Damien threw out. He goes. There's only one old guy I'm willing to put on that. And I'm like, who is it? And he goes, Luka Modric. He goes, I would bring him. He goes, he could be 47 years old, and I'm still going to want that guy. And I go,
going to be able to.
Yeah. My whole thing is, and I think when we're looking at this, and I know this doesn't answer Aaron's question, in even in the tiniest, I do think if you could go out and get sort of a bigger striker right now, maybe that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you could move, and I like Scott goes, you could get rid of Joseph Paintsel, right? That would be. We're talking.
But that doesn't hurt. Like, I don't know if Aaron's question is who is someone where you'd hurt to see let go.
Right.
And you'd be,
I don't think he didn't say it hurt. He's just like, just make.
Well, then that's the easy answer.
So by the way, I think it's ridiculous to even suggest that. I think Joseph Paintsel, I understand. I was just on the Monday show, I was like, the guy doesn't even look like he knows how to play soccer anymore. That is a ridiculous take to have about a guy who was so successful last year. Let's just put that into perspective. I'm okay with making ridiculous takes. The fun thing about my ridiculous takes, which I was reminded of today, is that when I make ridiculous takes and then I have to talk to the players, I get to hear about it, right? And that's where you don't want to show up to training when you say those things. That's the other side of it. That's where everybody in the chat room gets away with it, and I don't, right? And even you, you get away with it. I don't.
Yeah, I'm far away. I'm just that weird guy with a mustache who shows up on hump day to make weird comments.
I'm fine with taking the heat for stupid, crazy comments. That's fine. And usually I can have a good conversation about it. It's funny, right? The whole deal.
All right.
So, but anyway, Joseph Paintsel, you could move him off. Now, what I would think that you would then do is you would move Gabriel Peck over to the left side. Here's my turns. Okay? You move Gabriel Peck over to the left side. Greg Vanny did talk about playing them on their opposite sides that they are normally on a lot more this year because he thought that it opened things up and created some chances. Doesn't mean that doesn't mean they're going to start there. Doesn't mean that they stay there. But I think that they're going to try to be a little more fluid in that situation and try to change things up. So look for that in Vancouver. I really think that there are going to be more times where those guys switch sides. I also think that there's going to be more times when they overload to the same side. We've seen that a bunch. So watch for sort of those little tactical moves that I think can help the LA Galaxy be able to. But you'd move Gabriel Peck over the left hand side. You move Mauricio Cuevas up to the top, right, and then. You could sign your DP striker and come in. I am high on Mauricio Cuevas right now. I think
as your DP striker?
No, not as my DP. but you'd have to go get a DP striker. Yes, I don't know who that is. I'm not going to be. But that's one way you can do that. Go ahead.
I'll humor to answer Aaron's question to kind of go back, and since my answer, what does this team need right now? I like the shout of Luka Modric, someone who, when you mention that name, like you said, he's an older man on the list, and it feels like maybe is attainable for the LA Galaxy. But someone like Vitinha right now for PSG, who won Champions League, won the Nations League with Portugal. Obviously, I'm biased. He's He's like the Super Saiyan Riqui Puig. He's Riqui Puig up. World class, Ballon d'Or conversation. So I would mortgage everything to get a midfielder like that, pulling the strings. That's an easy answer. Now, if you want to talk about realism on who your DP striker is, the Club World Cup being fresh in my mind, someone like a Harry Kane who's older, but he just knows how to score. That guy just knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. And if you catch him later on and you get rid of someone like a Joseph Paintsel, or even if you get rid of, and Aaron said, okay, fine, make it hurt. If you make it hurt a little bit, okay, it's worth getting rid of Gabriel Peck.
Right.
And then now you can bring, Fagundes on that side, or make something happen. But if you have a striker like a Harry Kane or even like a Robert Lewandowski is always someone who's been on my list, that seems like someone who might be attainable down the line. And then that's someone who knows how to score the goal. So those are the types of players I'd mortgage the whole team for right now.
I wonder about fit. Like I really get it. Like if you're really breaking this down, does Harry Kane. The whole reason I say this is that you watch what happened at LAFC with Olivier Giroud.
Yeah, that's true. Does he create? Yeah.
He shouldn't have been. He should have scored more goals. And the fact that he didn't is. People are going to call him, and Bernadeschi was in this conversation now too, but the worst DP signings and stuff like that. And you can sort of look at those and it's like, how can Olivier Giroud be one of those guys who's like the worst? And it's just, sometimes it's not even about the player.
The team was not built to support him. I think that was very obvious. And as a Galaxy fan, I was happy to see that.
Right.
But it was very clear that team, the way they play was not designed to fit Olivier Giroud, because that's someone who, going back to my, Portuguese-ness and having Portugal play France, he was always someone who was dangerous and always someone who, was capable of scoring, that form is temporary, class is permanent. That's a guy who has it. It did not work for LAFC, which thankful for us. He didn't make us pay too much.
Yeah. So anyway, just interesting stuff. I will say this: if you're bringing anybody into this league as an older player, you have to get somebody who has been a grinder a lot of their years. That's why, like, Luka Modric to me is like that guy just works.
He's just gonna keep going.
And you need in an overly physical league like Major League Soccer, you need somebody who's just gonna work hard and just continue to work and just not give up on that stuff. Having pretty playing strikers or guys who play in the midfield but sort of dance through it. Yeah, I mean, you're sort of seeing some of this with Messi right now too. Is just the fact that he does an amazing. He's going to do what he does, and it's amazing. Yeah. But without the pieces around him that are good, you're not going to have this. This is LA Galaxy when David Beckham was there and Landon Donovan was on the team before Robbie Keane came in. It's like They didn't match up. Things aren't 100%. Yeah. That being said, I think Miami's going to be good in the second half. I'm not convinced that there's going to be anything but good stuff coming out of them.
You look at, and we make fun of it for, the players that they have and how old they are and further along. But again, those are players who they know how to play. They're going to exploit weaknesses, and maybe they're not going to be Supporter Shield winners, but they're not going to have 9 points. You know, that's for sure. They're going to figure things out and be able to capitalize on the mistakes of other teams. That's just they're operating on a different level. You have to respect that.
By the way, John says Diego Luna. If you saw Diego Luna being obsessed, monster, just crazy game. First 20 minutes of the U.S. game, and by the way, plays. You can see him playing up to ability, right? It's one of those, like on RSL, you can see him a little isolated because I don't think he has the bodies around him. You put him on the
But look at the game versus the LA Galaxy. Who was the guy who made us pay? Diego Luna, 2 goals in 20 minutes. Geez, that looks familiar. We've been on the other side of that.
They've softened since then, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and certainly you see that he's more on an island now, I think, now than he has been, and teams are trying to shut him down. But you go and put him on the U.S. men's national team where you surround him with really good play, and all of a sudden he gets better, right? And those are the guys that you're looking for, is who gets better whenever you surround him with good players. The complete opposite of bringing somebody over who is, an old grizzled vet from Europe, where they have to make the people around them better, not necessarily just, make themselves better. So always sort of an interesting one.
Goes back to your comment on a grinder. Diego Luna is the guy who's just gonna grind and keep going and just jackhammer all day long. And you're gonna get, if you're the opposing team, you're gonna get sick of it and it's gonna hurt. But if he's on your team, you're like, gosh dang it! Thank goodness we have this guy on our team.
Marco Royce, by the way, was named the LA Galaxy's Player of the Month. He might as well be named the LA Galaxy's Player of the Year at this point, because he's been one of the few there. We already talked about Aaron Bibu, by the way, coming in and possibly getting a transfer to Genk, and this could get the LA Galaxy some more minutes as well. One of the things that happened today as well is Eddie Chadwick and Max Steelman have been named to the 2025 MLS Next All-Star team. So you're getting those younger guys in the academy sort of there. Got to have a little conversation with Greg Vanny about the academy today, and sort of off to the side is, not a main topic, but he was talking about both of these guys. And we were asking sort of what you could see from them. He called Eddie sort of Steady Eddie, and he says, I've never called him that before, but that's what he is. He's just like this steady guy. You know what you're going to get. He's going to go out there. He's going to perform. He's going to be really good. And then with Max Steelman, he goes, Max is like, you question some of his decision-making skills at this age, like just in terms of where he's been. He goes, but he's like the stuff that he tries and the stuff that he does and the creativity that he has. And he's sort of
audacity.
Yeah. I think he said some people call him like a maverick. He's just sort of out there, just like running and gunning, man, and just going all over the place. But he has so much talent in that you don't. This is what I think is interesting at the academy level. You have a guy who wanders, right? You have a guy who is just out making plays, who's going to try to find the ball, who's going to try to find space. He's not necessarily playing in a position. He's sort of one of these guys you let sort of go out there and just do his thing. Yeah. And what is the tendency that we've really seen in a lot of this is to squash that, right? Is to sort of be, you have to play in the system and you have to do this. And I think purposely within the academy system right now, they are trying to not squash that and try to allow him to develop and sort of be that
give
way.
Them the freedom. If you have a player who's capable like that, you don't want to jam them into a system. Like, you want to let them flow. Of course, I saw a clip floating around that kind of stuck with me of Jose Mourinho talking about, you could change tactics, but the principles still need to be the same. So I think that's probably the philosophy that you want to have. And if you have someone like Greg Vanny, who's overseeing it top to bottom from first team down to the academy, you maybe want to have the same principles. But if you have players who, you let loose and you let them do their thing, you want to leave the ability for them to do that. And that goes all the way to the first team with Riqui Puig. We talk about it all the time. Maybe it doesn't suit the LA Galaxy system or Vanny ball, but sometimes that's gonna put you in a great situation to be there. So you have to allow that freedom. That's talk about being cliche, the beautiful game. That's what it's about. It's not about the moving the tactic piece,
right,
the X and the O. It's about watching the free flowing game and watching the players make audacious passes and try different skills. That's what it's all about. So I'm glad to hear that they have someone who's getting recognized for that.
Schedule coming up for the LA Galaxy. LA Galaxy hosting Vancouver. LA Galaxy hosting DC United. LA Galaxy hosting Austin. That's July 4th, July 12th, July 16th. Then the LA Galaxy going for the second leg of El Tráfico at 7:30 p.m. on July 19th. That's up at BMO. And then it's going to be away to Houston and home to TJ. Little Jolos coming into town for Leagues Cup to start on July 31st. And then if you go into August, you see the other Leagues Cup games there, Cruz Azul and Santos Laguna. And then the LA Galaxy back to their league form there on August 10th, where they will face off against Seattle and then away at Miami. I forgot that game was even happening this year, by the way. I was like, wait, what? There's a Miami game in this? Yeah.
Because we got them last season. So it's the turnaround, the home and home.
The turnaround, the defending champs going against Miami. I don't know. I'm interested to see, and just as a marker of where we're at, I'm interested to see where the LA Galaxy are at August 16th, heading to Miami. And I'm it's sort of one of those things. If you're betting on it right now, are the LA Galaxy a changed team by the time they go to Miami? Because they better be, otherwise Miami's going to have a field day with them. And by the way, you're playing August in Miami. Like, good, have fun. I don't care that it's at 7:30 p.m. Yeah, it's 120%.
I'm sure it won't be humid. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. But anyway, I want to sort of see what that is. Then home to Colorado and home to Dallas to finish out August. But in the Gary, Jesus, I forgot we play Miami. I'm telling you, that was me too. I was like, oh, it's on the other side of the stuff. So that's sort of the schedule that's coming up. Obviously, a big game coming up, Eric, for July 4th. On that. The LA Galaxy getting ready to play Vancouver, 7:40 p.m. is your kickoff time. This is your July 4th game. The LA Galaxy hosting one of the longest continuous running outside of the COVID years, where I will pretend like they didn't miss it. But we'll
all pretend that.
Yeah, we'll all pretend. But one of the longest running continuous July 4th games and fireworks. And so you have that. They got a great performer coming in as well with Phil Manasala. So he's going to be in there. There's fireworks show afterwards. They're giving away a signed Gabriel Peck and Joseph Paintsel Angelino kit. So that's going to be going on for the LA Galaxy Foundation. So go check out that auction there. They had a pulled pork hot dog that they're going to be doing as well. And there's some other sort of fun theme things going on that are going to be interesting. One thing we have to talk about, Greg Vanny got to talk about a little today, and I was able to report on it on, was it just Tuesday? Was that just yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday.
Oh, good Lord. But there,
like 3 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, I know. There was a picture of ICE agents with Dignity Health Sports Park in the background, right? So this obviously raised some questions for some people, certainly about safety and attending games and all that stuff. For my discussions with the LA Galaxy, the ICE agents were in Lot 6, which is the Cal State Dominguez Hills lot that's on the backside. The LA Galaxy control a lot of lots, but they also have ones that they share with Cal State Dominguez Hills, and Cal State Dominguez Hills shares with. But the Galaxy have some private property lots that they have basically. So all the gates are closed around the stadium, and the only way to get in is Lot A. For the most part, I think they were there for, I was even talking to people today, about 15 minutes, and then they left, right? So there was no enforcement things. Cal State Dominguez Hills put out
they released a statement. Yep.
Yeah, they put out a statement. They had stuff going on in terms of sending out to students and all that stuff. Greg Vanny was asked today by Rob Jalen about, how do you tell people that it's safe to come to games, the whole deal. And I thought Greg's answer was, and I'll paraphrase here, but certainly I invite you to go take a look and see what he said. But he said, you have to make that decision for your family. He goes, I never want anybody to go into an unsafe place. And I thought that was, sort of the way it goes. I was having some conversations just around this with people around the galaxy, and I can say that, everybody's paying attention to everything that's going on. And as of right now, they haven't seen any immigration enforcement that has happened at big sporting events. And certainly coming into an LA Galaxy game might be a bad place for them to try and do that, knowing the fans that are around there and maybe the reaction that the fans would have if that took place. But I will echo what Greg said because I thought it was correct. Do what's safe for your family and go. I feel like for most people, it's probably going to be very safe for you, but you have to make that decision for yourself. So I encourage everybody, if you feel safe, to show up because I think it's a great time to go and it's one of the big games and you're getting a great game against Vancouver. But, in the end, it's a sport. So it's a game. So that's sort of my take.
Absolutely. You have to protect your family and make the decisions that are going to be best for you. That's the overhang. As you were explaining kind of the fun things, 4th of July game has been a tradition for so many people and so many families that's how they spend their 4th of July is at the LA Galaxy games with the fireworks show at the end and kind of the special things that they have going on, specialty merch that happens on those days, all those different things. It's a fun outing. This is an unfortunate overhang that's been going on. And again, people are going to make their own decisions. However, this is something that, given the amount of time that kind of has gone by since these types of things started, having the Club World Cup happen, having MLS games around the league happen, it does not seem like games is a place that they're targeting. It feels like it's a logistical nightmare to try to fish people out and figure out who's who and pick faces out and figure that out. That seems like a nightmare to do it. So again, your people need to make the decision, and I totally understand if people are hesitant and don't want to do it, and that's the bummer. And unfortunately, it is going to impact the attendance from here on out. In addition to the fact that the Galaxy have 9 points,
are horrible.
So again,
yes.
that's not going to help. So again, people can point to all the different reasons why the stadium is not going to look as full, but it's just kind of unfortunate. The way things are going doesn't look like it's an issue, but that's not to say that one day, someone makes a different decision and it becomes an issue somewhere else. So, safe. Hope everyone is able to enjoy the 4th with their family and spend time, regardless of what their situation is.
Now, going back to the game, the LA Galaxy with Vancouver, and we mentioned that when you look at Vancouver coming up, by the way, we can say, hey, they don't have a lot. They don't have some of their guys. I'm thinking, you're looking at Brian White and Sebastian Berhalter are probably some of the big ones that pop off.
Ryan Gauld has been out for injury, and that's someone,
right.
If you've heard me on the show, you know how I feel. So Ryan Gauld's not going to be available. They said he's close, but he's not available. And then, of course, we have Brian White and Sebastian Berhalter. So if there's a time to strike at the Whitecaps, maybe this is it.
Having said that, they come off a 1-0 win at LAFC in which they scored in the 20th minute and then shut out the LAFC for the rest of that game, right? So Greg Vanny mentioned, he goes, it almost doesn't matter who's on the field. This team is a complete team. Everybody steps up whenever they need to. Yeah. Anybody who they've asked to play has played well and made themselves, a very good player, for that team. So you can't count them out. And this is one of the best, and I still think, just because of some of the guys they're missing and some of the things that are happening, I still think they're maybe the top 2 best teams in Major League Soccer. Yeah. You're sort of, Philadelphia's in there. I think San Diego's in there right now, although I would say that I don't give a lot of credence to San Diego going up there and smacking Vancouver.
But that was a weird game.
Yeah. It was a weird game, and I'm sort of there, but I think Vancouver's great. If you want to look at the two, by the way, 4th in the Supporters Shield for Vancouver, 30th in the league.
What do those W's mean?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
What's that like? Yeah,
that means they went without a goal or something. Okay. I imagine.
Got it.
I can't imagine. No, if that was the case, the Galaxy would have a lot more W's. So yeah, the Vancouver Whitecaps, are a team that have sort of seesawed back here a little bit. You're looking at, they win it against Seattle, and then they go to Columbus and lose, and then they lose that game against San Diego, and then they win at LAFC, and now they're at LA, right? So now they're coming down. Yeah, this is a team that you're going to have to execute perfectly on. They will absolutely make you regret doing anything bad. They will pounce on things that whenever you make the mistake, they will score goals. They will defend well. You got to tell everybody the story about
go ahead. again, we're not just guys who flip the microphones on and just blab. Sometimes it may feel that way when we talk about butterscotch candies, but we like to go to our D ratings and our FOTMob and kind of see, get a lay of like, who are we playing against and what are the ratings, who are the players to look out for. We mentioned, someone like Brian White, who's going to be out, Sebastian Berhalter, who's going to be out. But when you go to the Who Scored, if you ever go to Who Scored to check out some stats, they break down team characteristics on what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. And when you look at the team characteristics, it has the Vancouver strengths and it lists about 10 different things. And the Galaxy strengths, it lists 3 things. And then Galaxy weaknesses, it lists about 10 different things. And then Vancouver's weaknesses, it says this team has no significant weaknesses. So that tells you kind of where we are and where the Galaxy is. So again, I think you take into the consideration the whole season, and because they're missing some players, again, this is a well-disciplined team, a well-coached team. I'm a believer in Vancouver. I know when they got out to a white-hot start, people were thinking, are they for real? Are they not for real? I think we've seen Vancouver show signs with a lot of this core of players, and then they made some additions that I think they are for real. I think they're going to be MLS Cup contenders. They're going to be in the mix towards the end. So it's something that you got to watch out for. And I think that that stat or that detail is right there. This team doesn't have significant weaknesses, so you really do have to have a perfect game plan if you want to shut them out and get 3 points, but you do have the benefit of playing them at home.
And it's not often that you get to see, like, whenever you're looking at D ratings or anything else, it's not often that you get sort of these almost even whenever you're on the road type things, right? Like, or whenever the team is on the road. And to me, it sort of creeps into that crazy zone of where you look at, this is basically, an even game whenever we all come down to it. And that's with Vancouver on the road and coming in and trying to do things. And I say that that's not even true. Again, on this show, it's what, Eric, I can't sit there and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. That the Galaxy are the favorites in this game. No, they're not. They can't be. All right. One, because they've been really, really bad. And they could continue to be really, really bad. And it's not gonna, I don't see the change. They have to show me that there's change before I can sit there and say, oh, okay, I trust you to be this way. Right.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say, and there's the element of depth and being around a winning culture, laugh at that if you want. But these players, even though they're missing important pieces, this is other players on the roster who have been around winning all season long. So they have that good mojo, if you will. They know what it feels like to win. They know what it is to be in winning situations and kill games off. So even if this isn't your best Vancouver Whitecaps team, this is all the other pieces are there that have been experiencing all these wins throughout the seasons, 11 wins throughout the season. So it is going to benefit them, even though, D ratings and some other things are going to give the Galaxy a slight advantage.
Yeah, I'm doing my best to pull up D ratings there for you. There you go.
There it is.
33.8% for the Vancouver Whitecaps, 27.1% for a draw, 39.1% for the LA Galaxy. Projected goals at 1.30 for the Galaxy and 1.18. So the away goal scoring per game, it seems a little lower. But what I think it should be noted is that Vancouver can score 1 goal and win this game. And I think their defense is good enough to frustrate an LA Galaxy offense that is very much hit and miss right now. And as much as we can focus on Joseph Paintsil, we can also look at Gabriel Peck, who had 3 good chances to score. Yes, Danielle, Greg Vanny even mentioned this, by the way. He goes, I think this is the second or third time that the goalkeeper has been like player of the match day.
We've seemed to find these guys who are not always the household names, but we seem to have them find the games where they stand on their head. Steve Clark is a name that comes to mind. He had some time in Houston. I think he had some time in Portland, where that's not a name where you go, man, what a legend, Steve Clark. But it seemed like when the Galaxy played him, he always found a way to stand on his head. And I think Danielle and San Jose kind of fit in that category.
Yeah, you can certainly look at that. Now we go into again some of the guys who played in the last game, and these aren't going to be the big names that I think you're sort of used to hearing whenever we talk about Brian White and Ryan Gauld and Sebastian Berhalter was in there. But Blackmon on the back line, has been good.
He's been solid.
Yeah, Takaoka in goal has been a solid goalkeeper this year. So this is just Kubas on the right hand side. These are guys who can play well. Ocampo out there on sort of that right wing as well. There's guys they can play, they can score, they can defend, and I think they're going to be as tough a test as anything. I think in some ways the LA Galaxy need a good measuring stick again to sort of say this is one of the best teams. They went to Philadelphia, who was one of the best teams, and had a 2-goal lead.
Had a lead, and let it slip through,
and didn't win that game, right? So it seems like when the Galaxy go up against these good teams that you're seeing good performances from them. They're just not getting the results, and that has to change. This has to be it. Greg Vanny talked about them learning how to win again, and we've talked about that. Is that you forget, and it's a learned. It's a learned cycle. It's a learned thing, and then you can
it's a culture.
Then you can repeat that. I mean, they won a MLS Cup last year. You would think that they know how to win. Nope. Change some things out, bring some guys in, move some things around. Everything's new. That's another thing that I think from the transfer window side of things is if they bring somebody else in, it needs to be somebody who adds to the culture, not subtracts around it. They're in a tough spot right now, and so if you're bringing something in. Landon Donovan mentioned this on his podcast, but he said he was basically like, I brought one guy in, and he goes, and it completely changed the dynamics of the team, right? And he goes, and maybe not for the best, right? So you have to be real careful whenever you go to change. That being said,
my argument would be, can it get much worse?
Yeah, I know. That's it.
Yeah, that's the other side of it. Something about Kubas, it said that he was nursing an injury and he's a day-to-day decision, so he may not be 100%. He needs someone who they might not want to risk. And then going back to significant strengths and weaknesses, Tristan Blackman is involved in a lot of set pieces, and that's something where the Galaxy are not exactly very strong. So that's a name when you go. Through my eyeball test of who are the players that scare you coming up in this game, Tristan Blackman is one there that you got to keep an eye on.
By the way, just a heads up, Wednesday, Vancouver will play in the Canadian Championship, right? So there's if you're an LA Galaxy fan, I think there's hopes that they are looking at that game. It's a Wednesday game, a Friday, Wednesday.
Secure the spot.
Got to get that spot in the Canadian. Maybe they're looking ahead. Maybe they're not thinking about it. I doubt that. This team is just so solid. Actually, again, I won't be there. I won't be providing coverage, but I will try to watch this game as it's going on. I'm actually excited to see what this game looks like because, again, I think it's a good measuring stick for the LA Galaxy. Kind of like whenever you're talking about going to Miami in August. Where's the measuring stick? Show me where it's at. Yep, the whole deal. If the LA Galaxy go into Miami and can get a win and can show something, it's like, thanks guys, we knew it, but thanks for doing it now. I don't know. Sometimes I think the wins might be, if they start winning, it might be more infuriating than if they just like lose stuff, right? Like
that is 100% correct. Because if you lose the rest of the games, the nihilist in you just wants to say, okay, it's it's all damned anyway. So you know what? Screw it. Let's go 0-34. So when you do say, okay, you take a lead in Philadelphia, maybe you're able to get a win against Vancouver. Maybe you're going to able to get a win against Miami. That makes you more upset. So this team had it in them, and we weren't able to figure that out. So I'm totally with you. But I'd be infuriated if they go on a run.
They go on a run. They miss the playoffs by like 4 points, 5 points, or something like that. It's like,
oh, yeah, that would hurt.
Okay, there we go. That's good. That's bring the pain. Bring the pain. Live in that.
Make it hurt. Make it hurt all the way around.
Bring in that melancholy. All right. Yes, Patrick goes, we're favored against Vancouver. I mean, technically.
Barely. Yeah, it's positive. If you go to Moneyline, Vancouver plus 155, Galaxy plus 165. Okay, $10.
$10
$10 favorites. Yeah. Vegas says they're $10 better than Vancouver, and I don't know that I would take that.
No, it is the whole home and away. Again, the 3 home games is a really interesting twist because we've only seen the LA Galaxy once this season play back-to-back home games, and now you're getting 3. How does that affect them? In actuality, they have a better home points per game than their away. Not like it's anything major. I'm just telling you that because they have 1 win at home, their points per game is actually better at home than it is on the road. They have played 4 games less at home than they have on the road. So, you would expect that points do tick up, not by any dramatic event, but points do tick up in this 3-game homestand.
Yeah. And the one thing that I will point out as well, if you look at the standings, Vancouver is one of 2 teams they're averaging 2 points per game. So again, that says something about their away record as well. They have 5 wins on the road.
Right.
And so that's something you have to look out for too. Vancouver and Philadelphia are 2 teams that are averaging 2 points a game. So again, if they're playing in a game, better than a draw is kind of what they're averaging. So that's the thing that has to scare you as well. Just given how bad the Galaxy have been.
All right. Predictions guaranteed to be wrong for you, sir.
I get to go first. So here's the thing we know about making predictions is that things never go as planned. So Sting, a team second in the West, they're one of 2 teams with 2 points per game. It's an easy loss for the 30th place LA Galaxy.
Yes.
But that makes too much sense.
Right.
And it's not supposed to make sense. MLS is not supposed to make sense. So I'm saying the Galaxy pick off the Vancouver Whitecaps 2-1.
Yes.
And Joseph Paintsill gets a brace.
Oh,
that's
wow.
how wild I'm going to be. 2-1 LA Galaxy. Paintsill remembers how to play soccer. Yeah. It's 4th of July miracle.
Darren says,
I'm feeling the optimism. It's the mustache.
It's the mustache. That's what it is. Your face is free to breathe right now. That's what. You're getting so much oxygen. You're seeing clearly now.
Or maybe I'm a little too high on life here. I'll have what he's having.
Yeah, it was the goats. That's what did it.
It was the goats. Yeah, I didn't talk about that.
No. I mean, if anybody follows you on Instagram, you would have seen 7,000 pictures of the goats. I go. If they're lucky enough to follow both you and your significant other there. Many goat pictures. Did I just be honest? Did she almost cry when the goats were gone? Because she seemed really. Yes,
it was an emotional moment. So for those who missed it, my neighborhood, instead of bringing in landscaping crew, they had about 600 to 1,000 goats come in to clear brush and invasive species, and it was right in our backyard. And so we basically had a herd of goats making noise and in our backyard, and my wife just was in heaven just watching the goats. We were in the backyard relaxing, listening to all the noises, the goat noises. The kids had a blast. So big goat family over here.
Yeah, by the way, Mexico 1-0 win over Honduras, so Mexico and USA in the Gold Cup. My prediction is the Galaxy lose this game because until they start winning games, I refuse to.
They have to prove you wrong. Fair enough.
They have to prove me wrong. So that's it. I don't disappoint me. So I'll already set my expectations very low and see where it's at overall. All right. I think that's it. Anything else that you want to touch on before we get out of here?
No, I think we covered it. If you're going out there, enjoy, have fun. If you're not going out there, hope you just have a good holidays and enjoy and relax. And, we're in the dog days of summer. So, hope everyone is able to do their thing and make things happen and spend time with the ones they love. Because, what's better than that? So I feel like we do this around Christmas and the holidays, spend time with and this is the feel good. The 4th of July, I think, feels like that. Hey, this is the time, spend time with others and enjoy. So if you're able to have that luxury to do so, take advantage of it.
I would like to remind everybody to please come back with all the appendages that they started the weekend with.
Yes, please.
Did you see in Northern California the fireworks factory that blew up?
I heard about that. Yeah.
Dude, good Lord.
It's a nightmare. I have my fireworks in the garage. You just hope that nothing goes sideways, because then, it's going to have the Disneyland show in there.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. Just as a side note, I was eating at McDonald's today. You can judge me for what you want. I needed a quick meal. It was down the street. I went there. The guy in the window wanted to have a chat, so we were chatting a little bit and going the whole day. I'm like, you getting off on July 4th? And he's like, no, man. He goes. I got to work till 1:30. By the way, there was just a big firework that went right off outside my window. Almost on time.
Perfect.
But he goes, no. He goes, I have to work till 1:30 a.m. On Friday. I go, do you think it's gonna be busy? He's like, I don't know. He goes, do people want to go to McDonald's on July 4th? I'm like, no. I go, I think they want to watch fireworks. Do you want to go to McDonald's? Yes, go ahead.
I've done this. Go through the McDonald's drive-thru,
right?
Pick up some hot fudge sundaes,
right?
Enjoy them while you sit down and watch the fireworks.
Okay,
I've done that. I've been that guy.
Just the optimism I got from this guy, younger kid. He was great. He was really nice. He goes, hey man, I work the drive-thru. I got a window right here, baby. I can see the fireworks from here. And I'm like, that is the kind.
Get this guy in the locker room.
That's what I want to see. He needs to give the next talk to the LA Galaxy. They had Raul do it for the win last time. Have this guy fly him in. But no, it was good. All right. Why don't you tell people where they can find you? Hope everybody's safe.
We have an injury time.
Executive producer
Super
Herb.
chat.
$20 super chat. We appreciate that, Herb. Hey, Josh. Hey, Hammer. Just here to celebrate 3 years since my name made it on the episode's headline. Sorry, Hammer, for repeating myself, by the way. Is that a Sasha kit with the mustache? Yeah. I mean, if you have the mustache, is it?
Kind of.
Yeah?
Everything's a Sasha kit if you wear the mustache. Yeah, but I think this may have been of the Sasha Clutchen era. So it wasn't intentional, but, it worked itself out. Yeah. So maybe Herb's going to make his way in the episode title again here in injury time.
You never know. Stoppage time winner with Herb. I remember it well. So, all right. Tell people where they can find you, and we will get on out of here.
All right. As always, you can find me on all social media at HammerEV9. So that's HammerEV and the number 9.
All right, if you're looking for me on any of social media, it's at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Like, subscribe, find all those places that you can on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on Spotify, all those places you can find Corner of the Galaxy. LA Galaxy taking on Vancouver Whitecaps coming up on July 4th. Have fun if you're going. If you're watching from home, enjoy that as well. Hope everybody's safe and sane this weekend. And we will be back on Monday night to get you all caught up with everything. All right. That about does it for us tonight. For Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Bear, I'm Josh, Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to our little corner of the galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.